In this video, I will be explaining how Bleach wrote the perfect plot twist. Bleach faces a lot of criticism, but despite all of that, I can confidently say that Bleach has some of the best plot twists when it comes to shonen manga. It has so many memorable plot twists, such as Ishin's reveal as a Soul Reaper, Ulquiorra's second release form, Aizen switching bodies with Momo, the return of the Quincy's, Unohana being the first Kenpachi, Old Man Zangetsu's deception, and of course, the reveal of Ichigo's Quincy heritage. Look, I could keep going on, but I think you get the point. With that being said, I personally believe that Aizen faking his own death is the best plot twist in Bleach. Ichigo and his allies invade the Soul Society in order to rescue Rukia, but shortly after they arrive, a devastating event happens. The captain of the 5th company, Aizen Sosuke, is brutally murdered. His body was put on top of a building and purposely put on display for the entire Seriete to see, and his own Zanpakuto was stabbed through his chest. There was no life in his eyes and blood was leaking from his body. Since the Soul Reapers had no idea of who was responsible for the crime, they were obviously going to point fingers towards the invaders who brought disorder to their lives. We, the audience, knew that it obviously wasn't them because Ichigo, Uryu, Chad, and Orihime are not capable of taking a life. Well, maybe Ichigo is. Anyways, I was really scared that the Soul Reapers were going to kill Ichigo and the gang on sight, especially after Ichigo defeated Renji and left him on the verge of death. It didn't make a good case for them. As a reader, to try and figure out what the hell was going on, I started to speculate on who the murderer was. I personally thought that Gin Ichimaru, the captain of the 3rd company, was the culprit, and I am pretty sure that a lot of you had the same speculations. Everything about him was suspicious. He was always squinting, and the fact that he never even opened his eyes made him resemble a snake. He was definitely the odd one out of all of the 13 captains. To be honest, my speculation was kind of right and wrong at the same time, because although Gin wasn't necessarily responsible for Aizen's fake death, he still had a massive role in it. Not only did he volunteer to be the scapegoat for the crime, but he also played a part in Aizen's plan. Anyways, to prove that this is the best plot twist in Bleach, I need to take it back to a couple of chapters. See, before Aizen's death, him and Gin have a falling out, and Toshiro just so happens to hear their conversation, and here's where Aizen's plan starts to unfold. Toshiro falls for the bait and tells Momo to be cautious of Gin. After struggling to sleep, Momo decides to go to Aizen's room for a conversation. Shortly after, she falls asleep, and later in the night, Aizen leaves his room. In the morning, she wakes up and the first thing she sees is Aizen's dead body. Shortly after, Gin arrives with a smirk on his face. I really have to emphasize how suspicious this scene is. Someone just got murdered, and obviously a normal person would be in shock. However, Gin had a huge smile on his face. It was almost as if he was basically admitting to the crime. Little did we know that this was just a form of gaslighting. Momo remembers what Toshiro told her and instantly draws her sword on Gin. However, she is stopped by Izuru and they have a little brawl, but the fight is interrupted by Toshiro. They are both arrested, and shortly after, Rangiku visits Momo in her cell. She gives her a letter addressed to her by Aizen, which was written before his death. The letter revealed the identity of who was responsible for Aizen's death. After reading the letter, Momo decides to break out of jail, and amidst all of this chaos, Gin also decides to put more fuel to the fire and frees Izuru. Toshiro confronts Gin and Izuru because he knew that Momo's first move would be to attack Gin. Therefore, he decided to kill Gin before Momo arrived. This is because she was no match for him. But surprisingly, Momo arrives and draws her sword on Toshiro. 3 words. What the hell? She states that the contents of the letter revealed that the person responsible for Rukia's execution intended to use the power of the Sogyoku to destroy the entire Soul Society, and the person behind this was none other than Toshiro Hitsugaya. The letter also stated that, and I quote, "Tonight, I have called him out to the sacred Eastern Wall. I must foil his plan at all costs. If he will not back down, I am prepared to cross swords with him. But if I die, Hinamori, please carry on for me and kill him. That is my last wish." Toshiro tries to clear his name and states that the letter was forged. However, Momo was convinced that it was real because the letter was written in Aizen's handwriting. Toshiro tries to figure out what was happening and comes to the conclusion that this was also the work of Gin. He decides to launch an attack at him, but he is stopped dead in his tracks by Momo, and he is left with no choice but to lay his hand on her. This was the ultimate breaking point for Toshiro. He was overcome with anger, but before him and Gin are able to kill each other, Rangiku arrives and snaps Toshiro back to his senses. Shortly after this, all of them are yet again reunited in the Central of 46. Rangiku and Toshiro arrive, and the first thing they see is the dead bodies of the members of the Council of 46. Toshiro is able to put 2 and 2 together, and he realizes that all of the orders that they have received since the humans invaded were fake. Momo also arrives and is confronted by Gin. They take a walk around, and shortly after, Gin tells Momo to look behind her. And when she does, we see a miracle, almost like the resurrection of Jesus Christ. The proclaimed dead man, Aizen, is right in front of Momo's eyes. To say that she was in utter disbelief would be an understatement. The first thing she does is run into his arms, and then, in a shocking twist of events, Aizen drives his Zanpakuto through her chest. Toshiro arrives at the scene, and Aizen reveals that him and Gin had been working together from the very beginning, and he states that he only made Momo his vice captain because he knew that she would be easy to manipulate. Toshiro loses his mind and unleashes his Bankai on Aizen, but unfortunately he is defeated in one attack, and shortly after, Unohana appears. See, while the rest of us were falling for Aizen's deception, Unohana was the only one to see through it. Well, she didn't really see through all of it because although she figured out that the corpse door was fake, she failed to realize that there was no corpse door. It never even existed to begin with. It turns out that all along, it was the power of Aizen's Shikai, Kyoka Suigetsu, which gives him the ability to create perfect hypnosis. I really love this reveal because even before Aizen faked his death, he had already planned ahead by hypnotizing the entire Gotai 13. And yes, when I say that, I mean both captains and vice captains included, except for Kaname because he is blind. He gathered all of the members of the Gotai 13 and tricked them into believing that he was showing them his Bankai, and it was at that moment that he hypnotized them. Logically speaking, there was no way Aizen's plan could fail. The only thing needed for someone to fall under his hypnosis is for them to see the release of his Shikai. Once someone has seen it, from that moment on, they are under its hypnotic power, and each time it is released, the hypnotic power automatically returns. Everything about this plot twist was perfect. I don't care who you are. Even if you have the highest IQ in the world, there was absolutely no way you ever saw it coming. From what we had seen from Aizen in the Soul Society arc, he was a very kind and well-respected captain. By no means was he capable of something like this. The only way you would have been able to figure out that Aizen was the villain was if you were spoiled. And to be honest, if that happened to you, then I am really sorry, because that just takes the fun out of it. But regardless, even if that applies to you, I am pretty sure that you can still appreciate this plot twist. Anyways, even after faking his own death, Aizen was still manipulating the entire Soul Society from the shadows. He had them running around in circles looking for his murderer when in reality he was alive and behind all of the chaos. Honestly, Aizen is a mastermind. He knew just how important he was to Momo, and because of this, he decided to take advantage of that. First, she was led to believe that Gin was responsible for his death, and she even gained the balls to challenge him. And then she was manipulated again to believe that it was Toshiro, and was even further willing to draw her Zanpakuto on her childhood friend. And after she had served her purpose, Aizen attempted to kill her. He murdered the Council of 46 and made it appear like they were still alive so that he could issue orders. He framed Toshiro for his death, and he almost got Rukia killed. But what really shook me to my core was that all of this was for a bigger goal. He had set his plan in motion even before Ichigo and his allies invaded the Soul Society. He reveals that he went through all of this trouble just so he could retrieve an item called the Hogyoku. In order to do this, he first needed Renji and Byakuya to capture Rukia and bring her back to the Soul Society. This is because Kisuke fused the Hogyoku to her soul. Therefore, to separate the Hogyoku from Rukia, he needed to use the Sogyoku. And even though his plan was ruined, he still won at the end of the day because he achieved his goal. The chapter that Aizen's treachery is revealed is so poetic because it is titled End of Hypnosis. This title is very fitting because after his deception is revealed, he literally turns into a different person. And I am not even exaggerating when I say this. He himself states, and I quote, "The Sasuke Aizen you knew never existed." Definitely one of the coolest lines in shonen manga. Almost like an actor, he had been playing a role, and once the movie was over, he revealed his true colors. The once polite and well-mannered captain had turned into a bloodthirsty monster. This isn't even an overstatement. He goes from looking like a nerd to a Chad in one single scene, and all he did was remove his glasses and flip his hair back. What truly haunts me about this plot twist is that it would go on to influence the story of Bleach. Friendships were ruined because of it, lives were lost because of it, and battles were fought because of it. With the Hogyoku in Aizen's possession, there was no telling what havoc he would wreak. Thank you for making it to the end, and if you enjoyed the video, then please like and subscribe because it really helps the channel out. And also tell me down in the comment section what your favorite plot twist in Bleach is. Peace out.